Alrighty, welcome into Nate's NFL Power Podcast, your place for commercial-free power rankings, Game Slate, top 5 games of the week, and picks. Of course, I'm your host, Nate, aka Always Triggered, and Week 4 is coming up on us already, starting Thursday. My, how time flies. This will be the final weekend for September football. Now, Week 3 wasn't as crazy as Week 2, but it sure did not disappoint, especially for anyone like me who was watching the Red Zone, and more specifically, the last hour of the late window on Sunday afternoon. The latter of the Monday Night Football games, also between the Commanders and Bengals, was a great watch. I'm very excited to go over this week's rankings and share my thoughts with you guys. Interesting fact, this week we have 4 teams making double-digit moves in the rankings, as well as 4 new teams in the top 10. That's right, 4 teams in, 4 teams out. Now, you all know I'll get right into it with no BS or any extra fluff. But first, as always, guys, make sure to drop a like on the video to help our small and upcoming channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe, so that way you are always aware of when our new content drops for the pod. The numbers are going up, and you all deserve a ton of props for that, so mad respect. Now let's keep this train rolling. And with that being said, let's roll right into Week 4 here and take a look at those power rankings. As mentioned, Week 3 wasn't as out there as Week 2, but we still had some very interesting upsets and finishes that really made some waves in the power rankings. You all know how we roll, so let's take a look at the right column first, where we see some changes at the bottom of the league. That's right, both the bottom 2 teams from last weekend moved up 3 spots. The Giants moved to 28 after beating the Browns 21-15 in Cleveland. Daniel Jones had a great day. Didn't expect to see that versus the Browns defense. He went 24 for 34, 236 yards, 2 touchdowns, both to rookie Malik Neighbors, and 0 turnovers. He was also only sacked twice, while the Giants defense got to Deshaun Watson 8 times. The Panthers were in lockstep, also coming up with their first win this year, bringing in the 29 after beating the Raiders in Vegas 36-22. The Red Rifle, the Ginger King himself, Andy Dalton, went 26 for 37 for 319 yards, throwing 3 touchdowns with 0 turnovers. What a great performance, and that Panthers offense seems to have come to life after a QB change, so big props is in order for head coach Dave Canales. Let's transition then to the losers of those 2 games, as we see the Raiders didn't move, staying at 27. Part of me feels like they were both caught off guard with what to expect with the Panthers' new signal caller, as well as somewhat feeling themselves after their big win in Baltimore last week. Those factors paired with the fact that they actually did beat Baltimore in Baltimore last week is why I kept them where they were. I will note that for a second straight week, their rushing output worries me. Last week, 27 yards was bad, and this week, 55 while giving up 131 wasn't good either. The Browns dropped 11 spots to 30th. As mentioned, they lost to the Giants. They also have issues running the ball, rushing as a team 18 times for 69 yards. Their defense seems to have lost their edge, and they're not as dominant as they once were. And their anchor of that defense, Myles Garrett, is going to undergo an MRI this week as he has multiple lower body injuries. Let's speak about the new bottom 2 teams of the league. At 32, we have the Titans, as Levising manifested itself in a pick 6 to Green Bay's Jair Alexander. Now, Will did throw 2 touchdowns in that game, but that pick 6 was really bad. He later was also sack fumbled and threw a second pick, neither of them helping his case for keeping his job. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Jacksonville dropped to 31 after they got mollywopped by Buffalo on Monday Night Football 10-47. Yes, their defense had 0 answers to the Bills' offense, but I'm not letting Trevor Lawrence off the hook either. They've lost 8 straight games with Trevor Lawrence as their quarterback, and he didn't look sharp at all. Unable to put any drives together in the beginning of the game and airmailing an interception early to DeMar Hamlin. Denver gets mad props this week as they went into Tampa and jumped all over the Bucs early and thus jumped up in my power rankings to 26. Rookie Bo Nix put together a good performance, going 25 for 36 for 216 yards. He didn't throw a touchdown, but had a nice touchdown run in the game. Also nice when you're on the road, your O-line gives up 0 sacks, and your defense gets to the opposing quarterback 7 times. New England at 25, not much to say here. They were missing their entire left side of their line and had 2 other linemen injured, and it showed as they got drubbed by the Jets on Thursday Night Football. They couldn't run and ended up giving Drake May some time at the end of that game due to the lopsided score. He had a decent drive going roughly about 15 or 16 plays, despite getting sacked twice. The clock, however, expired as they were in the red zone, so we didn't get to see him try to punch it in. The Bears are 24, moving up a spot even after a loss to the Colts, who stayed at 23 this week. Jonathan Taylor had himself a game, 23 carries, 110 yards, and a touchdown on the ground, with a 25-yard catch to go along with it. Anthony Richardson didn't impress me at all, and that's putting it lightly. He was unable to throw for a touchdown nor run for one in this game. He also threw for 2 interceptions. On the Bears side of things, they were supposed to be able to run on the Colts this week. That didn't happen, and they were outrushed 63-150. And because they couldn't run, Caleb ended up throwing 52 times, completing 33 balls, 363 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a lost fumble. So he definitely improved on his yardage and continues to improve on his yardage, but turnover is definitely a problem. Ideally, he shouldn't be throwing that many times, and they seem to have somewhat of a identity crisis in Chi-Town. And now we get to the Cowboys, 22, down a whole 10 spots. The Cowboys are a far lesser version of themselves from 2023. Not only have they now lost 3 home games in a row, dating to last year, but those home games are not even close. Yes, they came back in their contest and made it close versus the Ravens, but I see that more as an indictment on the Ravens than a positive for the Cowboys. Those of you who know me knew I grew up rooting for the Cowboys. For time and editing purposes, I will spare everyone my rant about their entitlement, ineptitude, and lack of leadership. The facts are the facts. The 2024 Cowboys cannot run the ball nor stop the run, and in the NFL, that's simply just not a good place to be. Moving on to the middle column, we can start with those Baltimore Ravens, who, despite their win, moved to 15th. Lamar Jackson didn't have much to do, completing 12 of 15 passes. The Ravens ran all over the soft Cowboys defense, with Henry getting 151 yards on 25 carries and 2 touchdowns, while Lamar ran 14 times for 87 yards. It's hard to overlook how their defense continues to get gashed through the air, allowing opponents to come back. That part of me does fear what they would look like when they play a team like the Steelers. At 21, we have the Dolphins, who put up 3 points versus the Seahawks 24. Skylar Thompson ended up getting injured in this game, and Tim Boyle saw action. You can definitely tell they missed Tua. The Rams moved up 2 spots after pulling off one of the most unbelievable finishes in their game versus division rival San Francisco. With 2 minutes and 48 seconds left in the game, San Francisco had a 94% win probability. Not that Matthew Stafford cared. From that point, he led his team on a 3-play, 55-yard touchdown drive, taking 52 seconds. The defense forced a punt, and then Matthew moved his Rams 31 yards in 2 plays for the go-ahead field goal. That game was straight up highway robbery, and it also cost me over $80 as it was the only leg I missed on 2 separate parlays. As you can see, Arizona went down 1 spot after their loss to Detroit. Kyler Murray didn't look great in that game, but the Cards definitely did look smooth in their all-black uniforms. And after some Monday Night Fireworks, we see 2 teams going in opposite directions. The Bengals dropped 11 spots to 18, while the Commanders jumped 11 spots to 17. I'll tell you what, I did not see that happening in real life, and I definitely didn't make that happen in my rankings, the 11-11. It just panned out that way. How poetic. That game featured 0 punts and 0 turnovers, by the way, and it was an excellent watch. Rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels lit up the Bengals defense to the tune of 21 for 23, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. He was also the Commanders' leading rusher with 39 yards on the ground and a touchdown on the ground as well. Their defense still concerns me. They gave up 436 yards to Joe Burrow and the Bengals, but their QB does give me and many Washington fans some real hope. Now, Cincinnati falling to 0-3, yet another home game loss to a team ranked in my right column is definitely baffling. Their defense couldn't contain nor stop Jaden Daniels, allowing him to go for 5 for 9 on 3rd downs and a clean 3 for 3 on 4th downs. The only positive for the Bengals I saw out of this game was seeing both Chase and Higgins back on the field together, contributing in significant ways. Their offense looked great, but their defense was absolutely awful. They do face yet another right column team this week coming up in the Panthers. Who would have thought coming into this year that Cincinnati would have started this way? The Falcons ended up moving 5 spots after a good showing in their close home loss to the Chiefs. The Chargers at 14. Justin Herbert started the game with a bum ankle, and he couldn't make it the whole way. They also lost both tackles to injury in this contest, as well as star defensive player Joey Bosa. Chargers got outrushed 114 to 61. They gave up 7 for 14 on 3rd downs on defense. Now the good news, it was their first loss. The bad news, they face the Chiefs this week coming up. We see New Orleans at 13, and they came back to earth as their offense couldn't get anything going against what I thought and saw as an exploitable Eagles defense. Looking at the box score, I had to take a double take. The Saints defense was the one that gave up 460 yards. They lost in the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I really thought that this game was going to be a 31-28 type of game, and instead it was 3-0 Eagles going into the 4th quarter. At 12, I have the Packers. Apologies are owed to Malik Willis this week as he played phenomenal in his win versus Tennessee. Matt LaFleur definitely made the most of Willis while Love is recovering. They've notched their 2nd win in a row. Willis went 13 for 19, 202 yards, 1 touchdown, and 0 picks. He also was the Packers' leading rusher, running 6 times for 73 yards and a touchdown on the ground. The Pack had 0 turnovers, and they forced 3 from the Titans. Also, Jordan Love has been seen in full pads practicing, and he could make his return even as soon as this week coming up. More on that matchup for the Packers later in this episode. And just outside the top 10, dropping 5 spots, are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I really felt like the Bucks came out like they were spent from beating the Lions last week. Their injuries seem to have caught up to them both on the O-line by giving up 7 sacks, and on the defensive side, giving up quite a handful of significant chunk plays to Denver. And with that, it wraps up my thoughts on the middle column of teams. Now let's turn our attention to the top 10, which has 4 new teams. At number 10, let's start off with those Philadelphia Eagles. I will say that some of Coach Nick Sirianni's decisions baffle me, as well as some decisions made by the quarterback as well, Jalen Hurts. That being said, their defense rose up in a hostile environment, holding the Saints to 219 yards and only 3 points for most of the game. On offense, they leaned again on their MVP, Saquon Barkley, 17 carries, 147 yards, and 2 touchdowns for him, none bigger than his 65-yard touchdown run to win the game. So that makes it twice this year that Saquon has won them the game and once that he has lost it for them. All right, at number 9, the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers looked as good as I remember from his Green Bay days. He went 27 for 35, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He also ran 3 times for 18 yards and was very mobile in this game. Also, a lot is made about Garrett Wilson, and we don't need to rehash all of that, but I do feel that nobody really talks about Mike Williams and how important he is, especially to a quarterback like Rodgers. Those back-shouldered throws to a 6'4", 218-pound wideout is a very dangerous weapon for a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. Now, I do want to hold off on saying that the New York Jets defense is all the way back, as the line they played against was very banged up, but a strong showing nonetheless. At number 8, we have the Seattle Seahawks. I said it last week, and I'll say it again. Great teams beat down on mediocre to bad teams, and the Hawks did exactly that, beating Miami 24-3. DK Metcalf had another 100-plus yard game with a touchdown, his second in a row. The defense and run game continue to be the focal part of the game plan, and the Hawks are 3-0. Sure, they haven't beaten any juggernauts, but when you win for 21-plus days in the NFL, respect must be given. And at number 7, another undefeated team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. In one of my games of the week last week, they beat and bruised up the Chargers 20-10. Justin Fields looked great, making some strong throws with conviction, despite not an insane stat line. 25 for 32, 245, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He plays well in his role, and he stays within the frame of the offense, and it helps when your team is winning and rushing, 114-61. Also, in good note, the Steelers won on third downs, time of possession, and penalties. That's a sign of a very well-coached team. Number 6, I have the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers did everything in their game versus the Rams except close it out. They led 14-0 early. They outgained the Rams 425 yards to 296, besting the Rams in third downs, rushing, passing, time of possession. They really did it all. Fill-in wide receiver Juwan Jennings caught 11 balls for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. The only turnover in the game did belong to Brock Purdy on a fumble, and the 49ers did miss a field goal late as well. I bet you anything they would want to redo the ending of that game. And here you go, guys. Let's talk about these next 2 teams. At number 5, we have my favorite team to watch this year, the Houston Texans. And at number 4, the Minnesota Vikings played each other. The Vikings pulled it off, beating the number 2 ranked team per my rankings 2 weeks in a row and putting me and the rest of the NFL on notice. It impressed me so much that they jumped 9 spots in my rankings. Their raucous fans with their skull chants definitely bothered the Texans, who fell victim to 5 false start penalties, 3 of those coming in a row, turning what was a 3rd and 4 into a 3rd and 19. I believe that happened in the second quarter. The Texans definitely missed starting running back Joe Mixon, and CJ Stroud did them no favors by throwing 2 interceptions as well. Now with the Vikings, the Justin Jefferson injury didn't seem to bother him. 6 catches on 8 targets for 81 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Jones had 19 carries for 102 yards, as he also caught a touchdown. Credit to the Vikings, as they seem to have exactly what they need and the pieces around Sam Darnold to make him look great. His stat line kind of wows me. He was 17 for 28, 181 yards, with a whopping 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. At number 3, we have the Detroit Lions. They kept Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. in check, and they beat the Cardinals 20-13. David Montgomery ran for over 100 yards and a touchdown, and Goff threw 2 touchdowns, with 1 ugly interception. The Lions went 50% on third down, 6 for 12, while holding the Cards to just 1 for 9, and 0 for 2 on fourth downs. So the Lions continue to flex their muscle every week, and in the trenches is how they do it. That's why they are still the highest ranking team in the National Football Conference on rankings. At number 2, the Buffalo Bills. I want to be very clear here. I have not been one of those media personalities you've seen on TV putting the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen in the Super Bowl and MVP talks respectively over the last few years. To be, Josh Allen has been a little bit too much Superman and turnover prone, while their defense never made me see them as strong Super Bowl contenders. Well, that literally changed all this year. The Bills obliterated the Jacksonville Jaguars, starting the game with 5 straight touchdown drives before halftime and winning their game 47-10. Buffalo again had 0 turnovers, while turning over the Jags twice and stifling the Jags offense all night long. I've been saying it for a few weeks now, and I'll say it again. The new identity for the 2024 Bills is straight up scary. And at number 1 for the 3rd week in a row, the Kansas City Chiefs. Do they get a tad lucky sometimes? Yes. More than any other team? As much as all the haters out there want me to agree, no, they do not. The Chiefs win and most likely would have won even if they were called for pass interference with 4 minutes to go in their game versus the Falcons. And it's very simple as to why. They have the best coach currently. They have the best quarterback currently, and maybe possibly of all time. And because of those things, they win games. They've yet to play their best. They're not even 100% healthy. And yet they still win. And until the champs are beat, at the very top of my rankings, they shall remain. What a great top 10 that was. Love the movement and love the storylines that come from this. So with that being said, let's take a peek here for our upcoming Week 4 game slate. This week is going to play out very similar to last week with 2 Monday night games. This week starts on Thursday with the Dallas Cowboys going to New York to play the New York Giants. On Sunday, we have 8 games on the 1 p.m. slate. They are the New Orleans Saints at Atlanta Falcons, the Los Angeles Rams at Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings at Green Bay Packers, Pittsburgh Steelers at Indianapolis Colts, Denver Broncos at New York Jets, Philadelphia Eagles at Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Cincinnati Bengals at Carolina Panthers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars at Houston Texans. At 4:05, we have 2 games, the Washington Commanders at Arizona Cardinals and the New England Patriots at San Francisco 49ers. And then at 4:25 p.m., we have another pair of games, Cleveland Browns at Las Vegas Raiders and the Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Chargers. And then at 8:20 p.m., Sunday Night Football brings us an AFC showdown with the Buffalo Bills facing off against the Baltimore Ravens. And to wrap up the week on Monday at 7:30, we have the Tennessee Titans playing the Miami Dolphins. And at 8:15, we see 2 top-notch NFC teams battle each other, where the Seattle Seahawks go over to Detroit to face the Lions. Some really good games this week and some divisional ones too. So which ones of these games made my top 5? Let's go ahead and find out. At number 5, we have the number 17 Commanders at the number 19 Arizona Cardinals. This contest should be a fun one as both teams have dynamic running quarterbacks in Jaden Daniels and Kyler Murray, and fantastic wideouts in Terry McLaurin and Marvin Harrison Jr. It should be a great NFC battle in the desert, and I would definitely see the winner of this game feeling really good about themselves after the first month of football. At number 4, the Saints versus the Falcons. This one's a big divisional game. 2 closely ranked teams, both looking to bounce back after home losses to top 10 teams last week. At number 3, Philly at Tampa. A rematch from the playoffs a year ago. Will the Bucks clip the Eagles again, or will the Eagles move up to 3-1? Fun fact here, as this ranks the 2nd week in a row where I see a 10-11 matchup per my rankings. At number 2, the undefeated Buffalo Bills versus the 1-2 Ravens. Can the Ravens defense slow down the Bills, or better yet, possibly get the Bills to turn the ball over? I would imagine it would take one heck of an effort for the Ravens to win, but with the crowd and the atmosphere of M&T Bank Stadium, I think they have a puncher's chance. At my number 1 game for the week, the Minnesota Vikings versus the Green Bay Packers. 3-0 versus 2-1, 4 versus 12, divisional battle. Can the Packers even the records and jump the Vikings to hold home field? Will it be Jordan Love who does it, or Malik Willis? Can the Vikings go 4-0 for a perfect September? Especially with the unknown status of quarterback, I don't know who I'm picking for this game as of yet. And speaking of picks, how do my picks look as of right now? Well, if Jordan Love is back and looking healthy, I think I might just pick those Packers. The other 4 picks I feel very solid about, guys, but of course, all of them can change up until kickoff, and yours can too. You can always join my Pickems leagues in the description below. I have the links. Password for both of those leagues is triggered, or you can write your picks in the comments below. Last week on my podcast Pickems, I went 3-2, as you can see I wrote there in the bottom right corner, bringing me to a total of 8 of 7 for the year, so back on the winning side of things, over 500. Will this be the first week I go 5-0? Or can you possibly go 5-0? Do not hesitate to make your picks and see if you can outdo me in the comments below. And with that being said, guys, let's take a look at my overall standings. As you can see on the straight picks, I went 8 and 8 last week, bringing me up to 26 and 22 and in the 69th percentile. Great number. Still not where I want to be, but getting there, going in the right direction. Had a rough week versus the spread though, 6 and 10, and now 8 games below 500. Definitely got some work to do there. I did, however, have a great week in fantasy slash dynasty. As you can see there, my two dynasty teams won, and my home league fantasy team won as well, pretty comfortably too. So perfect 3-0 last week, bringing me to a grand total of 7-2 on the year. So I'll definitely take that as your boy's looking pretty good in his dynasty and fantasy leagues. And that wraps it up, guys, for this week's Power Podcast. As always, I want to thank you all for watching. You all are truly the best, especially if you made it all the way through this podcast. Please don't forget to give a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. To my family and friends, you all simply are the best. To everyone out there, thank you so much for helping me make this podcast what it is. I can't stress enough. The numbers are growing every week, and I'm very pleased to see that. And don't be a stranger. Definitely let me know what you got going on in the comments below. This week, I will let you guys know I have a super special birthday in my family as my niece turns 3 years old. I'm super excited about that. I hope to enjoy that. I hope you all have a great week as well and a great week 4 in the NFL. Peace.